pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, we're going to have our roll call.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mrs. Wilkins-Brent?
Here.
Mrs. Fisher-Conway? Here. Mrs. Hambrick? Present. Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mr. Stone?
Here.
Mrs. Texel?
Here.
The minutes from last meeting, a motion, want to read those?
So moved.
We have the motion, you have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Are there questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say likewise. The receipt of the check registry, if you have received those, council, if you would raise your hand. Thank you. At this time, we're going to have public comments, and that we want to remind you that on public comments that you have 4 minutes to state what you want to state. We want to remind you this is not a question and answer portion. You're able to state what you need to do, and we ask that you be respectful of that time so we can get to everyone who wants to speak. At this time, we have Brandon Lawson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I do want to talk about the new medical cannabis bill that just got passed. Just to give you some context about myself, I graduated from Scott County in 2008. I was a team captain there. I was a team captain at Georgetown College, and I went on to obtain my MBA from USC, where I was the vice president of the Cannabis Association there. So just trying to give you some context of why I'm supporting it, but also wanted to get you all, thinking about being a little progressive with having cultivation within the city limits, or actually within the county limits at that. But that's what I really wanted to talk to you all about, just have it on front of mind, be ahead of the curve, and hopefully to petition to get a cultivation license when they come out. So thank you all.
Lori Sanders.
No, it's not 4 minutes per event.
So I'll keep it quick. Actually, I have quite a few events that we're rolling down for downtown Georgetown. We're excited to be able to bring a few new ones also. You're all very familiar with Horsey 100. So that's the first one up. That is, I put Labor Day weekend, but I certainly meant Memorial. If you look at the date there, May 26th through the 28th. I was trying to give you all a summary page so you didn't have to read 12 pages, but I was going too fast, I suppose. So that's the first one. We always have assistance from the police department, and they have been working already with Horsey 100 on what would be needed for that day. Party on the Square, which is the concert series. You can see we've got May 27th, June 24th, July 15th, August 26th. Those are from 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., but I've also went ahead and included some rain dates. The weather's been crazy, so we're going ahead and throwing those in. I like to close Court Square at 2 p.m. because we have to have the tent and stage set up. Public Works always makes sure they are there to assist us. And then as far as the street closures, when we're talking about from Main and Broadway to Main and Hamilton, we like to do that at about 4 p.m. or a little bit after. Anytime we can keep from disrupting downtown businesses and shoppers while they're open, that's exactly what we're going for. So between 4, then from 4 to 5, that gives time for everybody to get off the streets, and then we can bring our vendors in. And we always have a police assistance with that too. So we're hoping we'll be able to do that again this year. G-Town After Hours, this is new in a way. We've always had G-Town After Hours, but some of our downtown merchants have requested that we close off the square and maybe have a little bit of music and possibly, we haven't decided yet, beer truck or summer cocktails, so that it can also be a social evening downtown too. So those dates are June 9th and October 13th. And of course, we would need police assistance again. and Public Works for their help. Festival of the Horse, you all always know that's the weekend after Labor Day. At least I hope you all always keep that in the back of your minds when people are coming up here requesting dates. September 7th is the chili cook-off. September 8th through the 10th is the Festival of the Horse. And of course, that takes everybody, police, fire, EMA, EMS, and the water company too. Believe it or not, we utilize all the public services that Georgetown has. So you can see all of the parade closures because that does kind of change everything. On Friday, the parade starts at 6:30, so we do have to close Military, Memorial, Main, and Broadway, and College for a little bit of time, and Saturday at 5. We always allow the police to tell us when those secondary streets are going to close. We go by what they suggest and recommend because we definitely need their help when we're around the college closing down streets. Small Business Saturday, you're all familiar with that. We have that every year, and Home for the Holidays too. This year we are partnering with the Farmers Market, and they're going to be joining us for those. It's Small Business Saturday. We may even have some winter cocktails and some music, yes, for Small Business Saturday. Obviously not for Home for the Holidays because that is a day of children's activities and the parade. I think I've got all of them. I've gone through them. I hope that didn't take me longer than 4 minutes, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
I have a question.
Sure.
ARPA gave some money for a stand.
Yes, for a stage.
A stage, did we get that?
We are still searching for one, but we have just not found the right one yet that's in the price range that we kind of want to stay in. But yes, we are hoping to get that at least before the Festival of the Horse. Maybe not for the concerts, but festival is our goal. And we're also going to be working on the mural project here soon too. Yes.
Okay. Do we have an artist lined up?
We do not have an artist lined up because there are very many wonderful artists here in Georgetown, so we're going to ask that they submit some ideas to us.
Terrific, thank you.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And maybe this goes to Devin or the mayor or somebody. Is there a master schedule that shows all the events and street closures? Because we have the classic cars coming in, I think it's second week of the month, and just curious, is there a way that we can see a calendar that shows this, or?
I believe we probably can get that. We'll
I don't think we currently do that, but we can, we obviously on our website have committee meetings and things like that, so we can do the same thing. I know through Facebook, tourism's really good about advertising events, but as far as actual street closures that coincide with those, we can definitely work on developing Tracy does a good job of keeping a schedule of events and keeping all of the parties linked in on the calendar invite so everybody knows closures and can coordinate services, but as far as getting that to the public, that's a good
Okay,
suggestion.
thank you.
Mayor, I make a motion, we accept all the events for tourism.
A motion made, properly second. Are there questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Gibson. Keith, I'm sorry. Keith Gibson.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good.
I'm back again to ask for a road closure. That's probably going to be a pretty regular basis, seems like. What we're asking for this time is for East Jackson Street between South Mulberry Street and Dudley Avenue, and that's on the 15th. And that's from 10:30 to 3:30 roughly. And that is for the new college kids coming in, right?
That's this month.
15th of this month?
That'll be actually, yes,
4:15.
4:15.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion is made, properly second. Are there questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Are there, thank you. Are there anyone else who did not sign that need to speak or bring something to the council?
What is this Randy Thomas?
That's the horsey.
Oh, the horsey. My bad. Sorry about that.
Okay, next on the agenda item about mayor comments. We want to talk about a couple of things to bring to your attention. Just want to, I think in the last couple of meetings, I think one of the constituents brought up about the rain barrels for harnessing rainwater. We do have those, and that through Public Works, and also, so if you want to get one of those for your home, there are some prerequisites you have to do, so you can get in touch with Eddie Hightower. He's our city engineer, and he can tell you about the process, and we can get that going. But we do have those. Next, there were several council members who asked about bringing up the fire station, and one of them, so in talking with some of them, and also in further discussion with some others, I'm not gonna bring it up for discussion because we're still doing some preliminary work with this. We're still trying to get some information that we need, and I wanna make sure that before we bring anything to you all, that we have all the facts, all the information that you will need, okay? So we may probably, maybe talk about that at another time. Want to talk something here that I've noticed, and just want to remind you of the legislative and executive roles of what we follow through. First of all, the committees, I am very appreciative of you all, council, that you all are working well within committees. Want to remind you of that role. These committees are set up for the purpose of, we have a chairman that's supposed to run those meetings. If you're not on that committee, you are a guest. So just keep that in mind when you come, and that you should be sitting in the audience. So we have no issues that you come into those meetings, but remember, if you're not on the committee, that you are now a guest and you need to be sitting in the audience. And the last thing is, I'm trying to be as transparent I can as anything that happens that council needs to know. I try to give you the heads up by calling you, which I try to do. Anything that's happening. Also, I want you to understand that I welcome suggestions and so on, but again, going through the process, that we have a committee. So if you have something that you want to bring forth, take it to whatever committee it is, fire, police, whatever, and then they bring it to the council. But you're also able to talk to me, and if you want something that you need me to address, please let me know first. And this is what I want to make sure we understand. Giving projects to the staff makes it very, it puts a kind of a crank in their ability to do their job. I mean, we are, as you all know, we're kind of staffed kind of on the low end. So when we give projects to them to do, it takes away what their efficiency to do to run the office. So if you need something, or you need something of information, again, go through your committee, come to me. If it's something that you think you will need, I will promise you we will get that to you in a timely manner, all right? So appreciate that. Again, thank you all for what you do in the committees. For me, I'm very pleased with the fact that it's working well, because I think, and people in the community sees that it's working well. I get comments all the time that they are glad to see committees working, and also that committees are actually reporting what they do. And they've been talking with people in the community. They're getting some buy-in on that, and that's what we want, our citizens to be informed of what we're doing and how we're doing it. So again, thank you for that. And with that being said, our next thing is we have our council committee reports, and we have police.
Thank you, Mayor. We met last Monday with Police Committee, everyone in attendance. We did have a few guests that weren't, public members that were there. Started out the meeting with Corey Council, who is the liaison with the Angel program for the police department. And he did bring up the fact that he has having some pretty good success with the Angel program and getting those that are wanting treatment into programs. He also trains on Casey's Law and has had probably well over 150 contacts on that. And in working with Casey's Law, he helps with works with petitioning for involuntary commitments, either a 60-day or a 360-day drug treatment program. Working out in the community with presentations for various programs within the police department. He is working with 2 officers that have been assigned to the mental health program, and they're really trying to bring in some local resources to help bolster what they're doing. One program that they're really trying to work on for low-level drug offenses is a diversion program instead of jail, and a sober living housing. One of the things that they have been working on, the police department has, is a video for their recruiting. They have hired a video editor. Chief Allgood does have a part in it where he is actually on screen, and then he narrates a whole lot of it. And we should have it back either this week or next week. Their recruiting efforts continue. Georgetown College, Midway. So they're really trying to get contacts with a lot of the local universities. Currently, have slotted for 68 officers, and we currently have 59 officers in those spots. And potentially due to upcoming retirements, training, medical, maternity leave, we're going to be looking at probably 53 officers. So we're really trying to push the recruiting effort and get more police officers in. Let's see. We are in some of the things that they're working on recruiting is full and part-time openings, even potentially looking at laterals to help get more officers in here. We do have a victims advocate slot that is open, so we are working with that. New program that is coming up that they're going to be working with is the have a young lady that was a grad student, a student at Georgetown College that worked with the police department. She's now a grad student at another university. Her and a fellow student are working on a mental health program for police officers. A Georgetown resident, and he also works at the police academy. His name is Travis Tennell. He is a retired Kentucky State Police trooper, and he is also very big in the mental health program for officers. So they're working on a grant to get money so that we can get this funded and get that program off the ground and running. We continue to talk about the IT vacancy and looking at dividing up jobs as best we can within the police department to try and get everything covered, even looking at the job description. Also looking at a citywide IT person as well to help take some of the load off the police department as well. One of the big things that the police department has to offer right now, and it is open to the public and to various public groups, is the firearms training simulator. And if you wish to try it out, contact the police department and they will put you through it. It is, can speak from personal experience, it is definitely an eye-opening experience. They will have the simulator for several weeks. Just have to contact the police department, ask to speak with Sergeant Payton. Did I forget anything?
I think you did great. We are trying to see if we can get some 20-year-olds recruited. You know, that's not the age that they can officially go through the training, but we would recruit them, and then hopefully they would be interested in staying and going through recruiting. And, I think that we're gonna talk about the vehicles later in this, that they do have vehicle needs. And, I intend to go through the police simulator. What is the date of cutoff for that? The whole month, okay. And with Cory Council, he's currently working with AmeriCorps until October, but his position is so important, I'm hopeful that council can find a way to be able to move into a permanent position for him. So, very impressive, the work that he does, and for not much pay.
Absolutely. And I think that's all we've got.
Okay. And one thing I forgot to mention for our comments is the IT position that I spoke to some of you on and we brought through our committee. That's something we're gonna be looking at, so to make it more efficient in our office, okay? Next, going to be, fire.
You're the chair.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Mrs. Brent and I met with Chief Thompson, his command staff, and Devin earlier this afternoon, and discussed, we didn't take any action. We listened and we both asked questions. Chief Thompson briefly went over some of his key budget requests that I guess that have already been presented to you, Mayor.
Yes.
And to Stacy. And we listened to what his needs are and asking questions about his current staffing levels. I believe two fire department personnel short at the present time, and then one part-time maintenance that we just recently approved. And you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it sounds like within the next 3 years, we're gonna be faced with the potential of quite a few personnel that are gonna be eligible to retire. And while that's kind of out on the horizon, it's not far away. And it's something that we need to continue to talk about, think about, plan, and be prepared for. And obviously we've got the finance committee that we're going to hear more Thursday on our upcoming budget. But again, I'm not speaking for Mrs. Brent, but salaries are important. They're very important, not just for the people that are starting out, but also the people that have been here, whether it's 3 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's important. You can add anything to that if you want.
I agree with that too. Definitely the salaries, and I know we're gonna discuss it with the finance committee. I hope we can pull this off, not just with fire, police, just all the workers here in the city, you know.
Okay, next we have, finance.
Okay, we met on the Friday the 31st, the Finance Committee. We did go through the first draft, rough draft of the proposed budget. As everyone knows, there's a lot of wants and needs that we are looking at with, limited resources, so we have to prioritize those. And, I agree with Councilman Showalter. I think probably salaries is right up there. We have a budget workshop scheduled for Thursday, April 13th at, is it 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock for the whole council, and that is, I believe, open to the public as well. So I think Stacy will probably have another draft for us to look at that time. So we'll we'll hold any kind of comments on what was, until we see that. So, Bonds?
We're just still working through the budget and appreciate Stacy's
Yes.
diligence that I know it can probably get a little burdensome, but thanks for just continuing to work through this, and we'll see everybody on Thursday. So come to it with open mind, because we can't get everything we want in there, but we're going to try to do our best, and that's why we're here. We're the elected officers for our citizens, so we're going to do our best.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a question, about the fire committee? Go back to that just for a second. Chief, when I got off the fire committee, recruiting was rolling along pretty well. Is that still the case, or is recruiting the kind of problem it is with the police committee, with the police department?
Yeah, we discussed that briefly today. I think the issue that we're all kind of dealing with in the same manner with emergency services is, we're all pulling from the same pool of folks,
Okay.
and you're dealing with a different retirement system now. So, we have, even this last recruit class, that we had, we weren't able to hire the full amount of people that we needed. Not only the, hiring process, we weren't able to hire everybody that we needed because we didn't feel that we had the people that we needed, if that makes any sense. So it's still, recruiting is still an issue as well, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Brandon had asked if he could ask a question earlier. Can he during council comments, or, during committee reports?
We typically limit people to just
Okay,
public
all right,
comment.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other committee meetings? Okay. Next, we have GMWSS, and on first on the agenda is the second reading of first ordinance for special sewer class senior discount. Sponsors was Tanya Wilkins-Brent and Greg Hampton.
An ordinance related to sewer user classification. Summary. 1, provides that the Georgetown City Council will be considering the creation of a special class of sewer users, which is proposed to consist of senior citizens over the age of 65. 2, indicates that the proposed class, if lawfully adopted, would receive a 10% discount on monthly water and sewer service. 3, includes a start date of June 1, 2023 for the proposed discount, if adopted, and confirms the discount's effectiveness until the amended or eliminated by ordinance. 4, states the proposed discount is not anticipated to negatively impact the construction and installation of sewer facilities, and defines the total savings to be realized by the customers within the proposed class on an annual basis. 5, defines the conditions and limitations of the proposed discount, provides the details of public hearing to be held, and indicates that the city council may adopt a second ordinance to accept or reject the proposed discount in whole or in part. 6, otherwise provides for compliance with the requirements of KRS 96.910, KRS 96.927. 7, provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage of publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time March 27th, 2023. Publicly read the second time April 10th, 2023.
At this time, we need to have vote. This is the second reading.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made, properly second. Are there questions? At this time, we will vote.
Mrs. Sandbrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Switzer Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins-Brent?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have the Water Solution Unlimited, $11,655.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a purchase order, and this is for 4,500 gallons of bleach at our water treatment plant. That's our primary disinfectant chemical. This is purchased through our annual unit price contract, so it is a bid price, and this is a budgeted operational expense. So I'll take any questions you have on this one.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion's made.
Second, Mayor.
Properly second. Are there discussion or questions? Motion is made and properly second. No discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say likewise. Next is the recommendation of award for the WWTP2 Waste Activated Sludge Storage Improvement.
Thank you. This is a recommendation of award for a construction project. This is at wastewater treatment plant 2, so it is funded through the user agreement with Toyota. This is not a ratepayer supported project. Low bid was with Judy Construction in the amount of $2,109,000. This is a budgeted project, and the engineer's estimate was $2.5 million. So based on the budgeted amount and the track record with Judy Construction, we are recommending this. We've recommended, it's been approved by our board. We're recommending it to council for consideration.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made. Second. Are there discussion or questions?
I have a question. In terms of improvement, what is this activity here involved?
This enables us to better handle our solids processing. Right now, we don't have this type facility, but this is ultimately a storage tank that allows us to better manage our the solids that we pull out of the waste stream and send that on to our solids processing, our screw presses, where it's dewatered and then goes to subsequently goes to the landfill. This is to help that process.
Are there any other questions or discussion? Motion has been made, properly second, and we had discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say likewise. Okay.
Mayor,
Thank
can I ask Chase a question?
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know several of us were asking back in November, December, maybe even late January, early February, about a potential increase for new development on the tap-on fees.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't know if there's any new updates on that.
Yes, sir. There is. First, we were focused on the senior rate. That's what we're going through right now. But we're also looking. We've had the questions about a disabled type rate, and it's creating these different classes. So that's the one we're looking at, that and the connection fees as well right now. I've sent the board of commissioners information on the connection fees, on how they want to handle that, where they want to go, and we'll be discussing that. I'm actually going to put that on our agenda for our next meeting. And then also, as Councilmember Stone said, with looking at how we could do something related to disability, customers with disabilities that a hardship's created with their rate. If we can use the homestead exemption, we're studying that right now, and I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm still working on that, but that's kind of the schedule. Is we put the senior rate first, and then we'll be following up on these two, and I'll keep council informed.
Okay.
So we've got.
Do you mind if I follow up on that?
Yes.
On the senior rate one, just as a reminder to council, there are multiple ordinances required to implement the senior rate. So the ordinance that the council just passed does not approve the senior rate. It simply meets that requirement that the council notify the public of its intent to consider it. So next there will be a public hearing and 2 readings and a vote on the ordinance to implement the rate. So just want to make sure that there's no expectation that that's going to be effective immediately or anything like that.
Definitely not falling off the radar. Fair enough. So
For the new development?
yes, sir. Definitely not falling off the radar. We will be taking action on that directly.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Next, we have the city attorney, and first is A, the municipal order approving the GMP amendment to the contract with Codell Construction, City Hall Renovation Project.
Mouthful, who wrote that? So, while Wes and Elizabeth come to the podium, and I've asked, and Mayor's asked that they kind of walk through where we've been since the last council meeting. Couple of items of note that I'm gonna leave to Wes, but in your, I have a packet for you all, and you'll notice there are two different municipal orders. And one of those includes the base cost of the project with no alternates. The other one includes the alternate of the rear stairwell, and I just included that just in case, because I know that alternate, I think council wanted a little more information and consideration on that, because without that alternate, the back staircase is simply going to be exposed, which is fine, it meets fire code at that point and things like that, but I know aesthetically, the council maybe wanted the option to consider that. So, Elizabeth is gonna talk some about the tax credit process, and that's when she can mention the slate roof issue, but I figured, based on conversations with council members, there might be an interest in that one alternate, so just included both orders for your consideration, but that's you all.
So the sheet you're looking at, the spreadsheet, we kind of fine-tuned it and just took all the information out from the last time you saw it and only have the low bidders on this sheet that you're looking at here. Sorry. And as Devin was saying, we have the base bid number, which is everything that's on the drawings minus the 4 alternates that comes in at the 11,871,000 number. And then if you go to the bottom of the page, the alternates are listed there, and alternate number 1 is the one that she's talking about on this order here. So that will address totally renovating that whole back stair tower. So since we met last, I think my boss was here at the last meeting, but we have went back and forth with these subcontractors for weeks. And 60 days is the time period for the bids, which is today. So we have to let them know today, you know, which way we're going with the project. But we went back and forth. We've asked for voluntary deductions. We've asked for, we went sit down with them and had clarifications for, you know, their bids and any questions they may have with the drawings. And we pulled almost $80,000 out of them since 2 weeks ago when I was here. The flip side of that, though, the elevator contractor did not fulfill his bid obligation, did not bid the drawings per the specifications, and backed out of the project. So we had to go to it. Elizabeth and I met with him last week, another company, went through the design and the intent of what we're looking for, and just today we finalized that number. So this number is about 10 grand different, I believe, from what was presented to you last time, but it's all to do with the deductions from the people that we got money back from, plus the elevated cost to the elevator. But I'll be happy to talk through any questions you have. The fees, so Codell CM fees are listed there, the general conditions, and then the contingency. I think there may have been some questions last time. If anybody has questions, we can talk through that. But that item, if you'll look in the middle of the page, contingency and FF&E, we've combined those. And what Codell has done, the way the contract reads, it's a CM contingency. So if there's unforeseen conditions, you know, Codell would be using that money as we see fit. But in talking with Elizabeth and Devin, what we're willing to do, we're putting all that contingency with the FF&E in the council's hands so that you all have full control of that, and we're lumping it together instead of having 2 separate line items. And we also reduce that by $250,000 to help the cost go down. So we've still kept 5% in there, which is bare minimum, but we feel very confident with the GMP. You know, this project will be complete. Everything on the drawing will be complete. There may be some unforeseen conditions, which is what the contingency is for. But as our job as the design team and construction managers to work through these and to get the job complete with the GMP that we provide to you. I think Elizabeth can talk about the tax credit part. We don't have exact numbers to give to see if
A
she
little
can
bit.
give you.
We can talk a little bit about the tax credits. So we still have not received our final comments from Kentucky Heritage Council. They have until April 29th to give us comments to respond to, and it appears we are going to receive our comments on April 29th. We are still trying to coordinate with them every week as we can to try to get any information. So just to revisit that quickly, we have the potential to get up to 20% of the project cost covered in historic tax credits. So that would be, roughly $2 million if we realize the entire 20%. Now, what that hinges on is what the reviewer feels we are able to salvage historic-wise. We're doing a lot of the restoration on the exterior, which is great. But the slate roof ties into that pretty heavily because the slate roof would have been here originally. So if we go back with the slate roof, that may be more favorable as far as the allocation we're able to get for the tax credits versus us going back with the standing seam metal roof. We would love to get some clarification on that so we know if we need to look harder at that alternate right now, but unfortunately we just have not received those comments back. The other thing that we are looking at is the Inflation Reduction Act, which is new, and we are trying to get a little bit more information from our electrical engineer on that. But basically, there are incentives that people can get for their projects when they incorporate specific strategies, which the one we would be focusing on is the energy efficient geothermal system. So with that, you can realize, depending on which tier we sort of qualify for, maybe 30% of the cost. We're looking at the one outstanding question we have on that, and one thing we're trying to get clarification on is 30% of the project cost, or is that 30% of that kind of mechanical, electrical, plumbing cost? So we feel comfortable saying that we could realize possibly another $500,000 with that Inflation Reduction Act. We would love to see that go up if that 30% includes full project costs, but we are counting on that being just the mechanical, electrical, plumbing costs for now, until we get that clarified. So that is the update that we have.
Outside of the mechanical cost, if it was a project cost, what would be the impact of this one, the savings on this, for the project cost of the geothermal?
We think about $500,000 if it is the actual project
Okay.
cost, then it would be 30%, so it would be about $3 million.
Yeah, almost 30.
Yeah.
And if you look on the spreadsheet, that, you're talking about mechanical, even assuming that it's just HVAC, you can see that just over $1 million, so you could hope for up to 300,000 on that line.
Okay, yeah.
So the geothermal, if you've got it's mechanical, there's also plumbing tied up in that for the,
Electrical.
no, for the, not condensing lines, but there's plumbing tied up in the geothermal system as well. And then there's also site costs for the wells, and everything that has to be drilled for that. So you get to factor in all of those costs. So I would say you're closer to probably 1.5 or 1.7 million in what you could realize that 30% number on.
And so, the decision we have to make tonight, we have to make somewhat blind when it comes to the possibility of getting either the Inflation Reduction Act costs or the Heritage Council tax credit.
Correct. We do know we will get something from the tax credit, the historic tax credits. We just don't know what that amount is yet, because we do know that we qualify under their current guidelines. We qualify for something. We just don't know what that allocation is yet.
I mean, is there a minimum that,
There is not the way that they outline it is that your project can receive up to 20%. So it's anywhere from 0 to 20.
It's based on, so if our project cost, let's use a round number, is 10 million, but only 8 million of that qualifies as historic under their standards, that's the only portion that qualifies for the tax credits. Am I?
That is correct, but it also includes whole project costs, so you get to factor in design fees, construction fees, and stuff like that. So it's not just the construction costs. As a
of the
percentage.
construction, that's historic.
Correct.
And the way they do it too is, it's based on a pool, so this year, talked about this a lot, they have an unprecedented amount of money. And so if everybody applies for it, everybody's gonna get money across the board. So I mean, knowing that there's that much money, we do stand a chance to get really up to 20%, as opposed to years in the past where they've got $5 to $10 million pool. When the money's out, it's getting spread across the board to the applicants that qualify. But unfortunately, those comments won't come back to the end of the month, which is why, even though I know there's some interest in the slate roof concept, there might be more interest if that's going to be really attractive in the historic tax credit context. So that, as far as accepting the bids and them and Codell getting the subs, that acceptance, so we can lock those prices in. If later in the game we get comments back and they say, hey, if you include the slate roof, this is how much you're gonna get, as opposed to if you don't, then the council has the opportunity to make a decision on that and do a change order on the front end to bring that in, because it's the same contractor, it's just the material, so.
So we could decide that later.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that information will come back to you at some point.
But we would go ahead and tell that roofer that's a possibility so that we can try to hold that price.
Gotcha.
as best we can. But if it's rejected, it'd be hard, now, to come back and bid it and get it at the same price.
So basically, what we have to make a decision on is which municipal order, whether it includes enclosing the back stairwell or not.
You know, Elizabeth, both of you might wanna talk about this. The question was asked, if the council just wants to do the base bid, what does that mean in the future to do some of these alternates as standalones? It's absolutely possible. You can speak a little more to that. Obviously, the cost is going to increase, but if you wanted to expose that back stairwell and leave it for now and say, we'll come back later and do it, that's an option, which is.
It is. There are a couple of factors there. We are reusing the current foundations that are out there for the enclosure. So from a site standpoint, we're covered, and it makes it a lot easier to add those kind of walls from the ground up later. Where it gets a little more complex is where it would tie into the roof on the third floor. Because if it's just open and covered, it just has a shed roof on the top, it just kind of slopes one direction. If it ties into the roof structure, it actually slopes a different direction and ties back to the structure. So if you do it later, it means that you're modifying roof work that you're just about to hopefully do. And then you're modifying stuff that is recently installed, which is just an unnecessary cost. The other thing to consider is there are actually two different types of stairs specified, because there are two different ways that we need the stair to be done, if it's exterior versus interior. So the more cost-effective stair, the actual stair construction, is if it's interior. So if you do the exterior stair now, you're gonna pay the higher cost for that type of a stair and then enclose it later, which is fun. I mean, it's still gonna be a great stair, just if you enclose it now, you realize some efficiencies of that stair structure on that construction cost.
And
Feel free to
it
add.
will have
It's a
weather,
precast,
right? It will have
precast
weather.
stair versus a poured in place.
Yeah.
basically.
I mean,
It's just an upfront cost.
Yeah.
It's a more expensive stair if it's exterior, if it's the
Yeah.
stair piece itself, than if it is enclosed from the beginning. It's a little bit easier, and quicker to do the cast in place stair, if we plan to enclose it from the beginning.
Well, haven't we dealt with the exterior of it being exposed? That's why we're having the issues that we're having, as far as water and damage?
So I think when the stair was originally built, it was exterior, and then a decision was made to enclose it. And I'm not sure, to be honest, of the decisions around that, if there was a water issue or if it was a weather issue, and the city just wanted it enclosed at that time. However, since it has been enclosed, because it wasn't quite closed properly, we didn't have a vapor barrier on that, then water was able to get inside and then had no way to get out. And so that is what made all of the water issues worse along that wall, is because there was no way for that water to then get back out of the building, and it was just held inside, and allowed there to be mold on the drywall and to rust the studs.
Okay, thank you.
What, one consideration, I guess with adding the stairwell, is there less chance later on there could be issues as far as, water leakage? As opposed to doing it later and not being able to tie it in completely with the construction?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's a little more complex when it comes to that roof tie-in, but as far as, the way that we have it planned to connect to the building itself, whether you do that now or later, it would be the same.
No difference.
Right, it's the way that that kind of expansion joint connects from the new building to the existing building would be the same. And then the wall assembly would be the same, you would have that vapor barrier in there, and we would be able to seal things better, whether it's now or in the future. There's always a little bit of concern with roof work when you're doing anything with the roof in terms of creating, anywhere where you create an area for water to come in, it will try to find a way in. So if it's done from the beginning, you more than likely will not have issues, whereas if you do it later, it's all about the constructability at that point. So when you create those areas for water to come in, water's gonna try to come in. But hopefully, the tie-in could be such that it would not happen.
How was, in the bidding process, by pure coincidence, I happened to talk today to the roofer who we think might have done the last complete roof replacement, maybe close to 30 years ago. How was that process done? Because he didn't know about the bid.
Oh, it was publicly advertised, so we
Okay.
put it on Land Imaging. We also, it was in the newspaper, we sent the ad to the, Stacy or Devin, I don't know
Okay.
what it was at the time, and it put out in the paper for 28 days.
Okay.
And then we had a bid through us, and we opened them in February 9th, I think, so. We
Okay.
started this, but, well, actually, we started this back in November, and then it kept pushing it, for other reasons within the city, other things were happening, and we're trying to get the right time, so.
Okay.
This was back in November, I believe.
Follow-up question, Elizabeth, I know at our last meeting, because I asked a question about, right now, we might have water coming in from the roof, it might be coming in from the walls, and I think you mentioned that there would be a 1-year warranty on the walls itself.
Right, so you have, and you can talk to this as well, you have an overall 1-year construction warranty on everything that will go in. On top of that, you have, different products have different warranties. So the roof will have a much higher warranty for the material and stuff like that. So if there's, an issue or defect with the material, then that would get replaced at no cost.
Do we know what that warranty is, how many years it would cover?
It's typically 30.
It's
20 to
25 or
30 years,
30 year.
A minimum of 20, could be as many as 30?
Yes.
Okay.
Which this is a metal, you've got a combination of metal roof and, is it TPO or modified bid here?
It's a modified bit on the, rear stair tower if it's enclosed, otherwise it is just the, standing seam metal. The other thing, just to quickly throw in there, is, a metal roof is a great roof, it will last you 30, 40, maybe even 50 years if you get lucky, which is great. If you put a slate roof on it, you're at a 100-year roof. So, you put a metal roof on it, you're gonna replace it at least twice, if not more than that, before you would have to replace the slate roof. Not that any of us are gonna be here in 100 years, but just in terms of planning for the future and that long-term cost.
Are you over there? I can't see you, but, if we could enter you into the conversation just a little bit. We've often said that we have included, in our previous budget, money
Yes.
for the renovation. Could you clarify what that was, how much, and how we intended to finance?
Yes, I looked at this last week and sent it with Devin. I believe the number for construction only was about 9.8 million. We put in 10.3 total, but obviously part of that is left for the remainder of the architect's contract. So it was about 9.8 in change for construction and the CM fee.
And the way that the municipal orders read, which is part of the reason Stacy pulled those numbers. So you'll see that budget line, that budget whereas statement says that the remainder of the contract will be included in a future year budget through a combination of long-term financing, cash reserves, and/or historic tax credits. Obviously, those would all require decisions of the council, but we, for audit purposes, have to make sure that item is included so that, it clarifies that a budget is going to sustain this contract and this approval. So, that long-term financing one, we have that resolution that allows the council, under certain parameters, to issue bonds if they want to for the project. So that line just kind of clarifies, hey, we might get tax credits, we might have to use cash reserves, but one way or the other, the council's approving the difference there, which in this case is about $2 million.
And so we're approving it out of our funds that are sitting in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, the approval, the 9.8 million has already been budgeted. It's about 11.8 million, so that's a $2 million delta that we hope is completely covered by tax credits and potentially Inflation Reduction Act. But when it all comes down to it, the council on that.
We will, and as Elizabeth has said, we will know more about requirements for our state tax credits by the end of this month. But if I'm correct, we get I don't know if we'll know before, but they send out the final notices in June.
That's correct.
So the final award letters with exactly how much you're getting from tax credits will come in June. And I would say at that time is when we would need to revisit with follow-up council action. Between now and then, I'll be discussing with the finance committee and the mayor for perhaps going ahead and procuring a fiscal agent, even if we don't issue bonds or don't choose to issue bonds. We do need a new contract for that. And of course, they can navigate those conversations with us and give us advice on the bond market and if that's something we want to consider.
So could I ask one follow-up with the money stuff? So if we approve this today, how will all of the payments begin to be made and in what order and in what amounts?
We've budgeted 9.8 million, so if it is approved today, I will go ahead and transfer before June 30th of this year the money that's been budgeted to the capital projects fund.
Okay.
And it will be sitting there. As we've mentioned before, council has a reimbursement resolution that you already passed in 2022 that says you can reimburse yourselves from a bond issue. So if we later choose to bond all or part of the project, then we can pay back anything we've paid from the day we've approved this contract forward. And we can even go back and capture some of our previous architecture fees that happened after that. So we have that safety net that even though I'll go ahead and move it so that it's there to begin making payments, if you move forward with the contract, we can reimburse the general fund back
Okay.
if we choose to bond any of the project.
Thank you.
If this passes, because I know one or two of us asked the question at our last meeting, specifically after listening to our risk manager talk about the conditions in this building right now. Is the plan to get out of City Hall immediately? I mean, when I say immediately, like in a matter of a couple weeks
Yes.
at the latest?
Yes.
And then we wouldn't be back here until the building is complete.
That's correct.
So every city employee that's working here would be out of this building
Yes.
within a matter of weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
Where will we be having our council meetings, Mayor? Back at the library or?
That's something that
Water
we'll
company.
probably look at, that, or I guess, or we have to look at some of those possibilities. There we are.
Has everybody seen the project in its entirety, like what it looks like on the back with it being enclosed? Okay. Well,
All right, so, motion?
I'm gonna make make a motion that we do it with the enclosed outside, just because of weather and things like that. And we can always make changes down the road if we need to. But I want to make a motion for the covered back stairwell.
And I'll second.
All right, motion is made and properly second. Are there any further discussion? You wanna read the resolution?
Want me to read the minutes order? Do I need to?
You need, okay. So,
Maybe just for the record, you're making a motion and there's been a second on the, contract sum of 12.35
Yes,
million
ma'am.
and change. Okay.
The second resolution.
okay. All right, so it's been, motion has been made properly second, and we had discussion. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say likewise.
No.
No.
Can we give like a hand thing or?
Okay, so, I guess we
I
have,
think it was 4-3, but I'm not sure.
so
Can I get the no?
who's the no, so?
No.
Three.
3.
4-3.
5.
5-3, okay. My math went off. Okay. All right.
Thank you all.
We'll be in
very much.
touch.
Thank you so much.
Board
Right. First thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Next is B, the resolution approving revised authorization, authorized official for cleaner water program, round 1 project, 21CWW199.
So, council, I guess in early 2022 accepted this funding for GMWSS. The city has to be the recipient of the funds. And the only thing that this resolution does is it removes the previous authorized official. For whatever reason, they require you to clarify the new authorized official, even though the election process did that. So this will just allow Mayor Jenkins to sign draw requests so that we can draw on those funds.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made.
Second.
Set properly second. Are there any discussion or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say likewise. Next, resolution accepting cleaner water program round 2 grant fund and approving grant assistance agreement 22CWSO23.
This is a new grant under the Cleaner Water Program, so they kind of released the funding in multiple rounds. So this is for and if there are questions about the project, obviously I'll defer to Chase, but this is for the Deshay trunk sewer. I don't know what the exact label you've given to the project, but this is the second round of funding to supplement one of the critical projects identified in the 5-year capital needs plan.
The Deshay and Water Street trunk sewer, interceptor sewer replacement, that is what we talked about through the rate study discussion. That was one of our projects that we are keeping. That's runs from the treatment plant number 1 all the way up through Water Street, main infrastructure sewer that serves most of the southern half of the city. We'd received partial funding through round 2 of the Cleaner Water Program, and then we have budgeted for the other part of that project. So,
Motion.
Chase,
yes, ma'am.
do we need to make a motion first and then have discussion?
Yes.
Motion made.
Motion made and second. Are there questions?
Didn't you say in one of our far country discussions that we've had for the past few months about water, that this is one of the older sections of the water lines in the entire
Sewer,
county?
yes, ma'am.
And that we have had breakthroughs that have been environmentally significant,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
so.
I think this is the, outside of expansion of treatment plant number 1, I think this is our next most important project that we would rank.
And clarifies the sewer line, not a water line.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, so-
Sanitary sewer.
Okay. Are there any further discussion? Motion is made, properly second. Discussion has been made. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Motion carried. Next, we have city engineer, and we want to talk about the Cooper Alley discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Cooper Alley, there was a presentation made last time where we talked about two things primarily. One is working with the county on, they approached the city, that's a city street, to realign the road to make it fit with their site plan for the new Justice Center. That's being worked on as we speak. That issue, and then the issue of making the first part potentially a one-way. It's the narrow section that runs between the two buildings. Those buildings are going to stay, so there's going to be no changes to those two buildings. So it's not wide enough for two cars to pass each other through there. So it was put on the agenda for further discussion. No action needs to be taken tonight, I don't believe. Devin, is that correct?
Right, I know that the presentation at last meeting, kind of just explained, it's the county and the property owner jointly petitioning the city. The project is going forward regardless, but, I guess, the council asked a couple questions, but there was no real discussion about whether the council had an appetite for granting the request. Everything would be at the expense of the county, so
Yes.
all the engineering, legal fees, any of those things would all be conducted by the county, obviously working with Eddie to make sure he was satisfied with the engineering perspective. But the other question being, is the council interested in the one-way
Right.
switch on the portion of the street? So just included it for discussion to get an idea. I know counsel for the property owner reached out, and I told him that it would be on the agenda for discussion, but no action tonight.
Yes, I got a phone call from him today. But my understanding is that you go in like you always do off of North Broadway, right there behind Whitaker Bank. That's where they're talking about. And then the other building next to it, is that like I don't remember if it's a cafe or what, something, it's been several things. But I don't ever recall anybody trying to come out of there. If it was, it would be right turn only. So I'm not sure that a one-way would matter.
I've seen people, I've driven out that way too.
Coming out?
Right.
I haven't ever done that. When I go in, I go out, the other way.
And I don't believe there's any, you can turn either way, right or left. Right now, there's no right turn only sign.
Yeah. The other option too is to ask, and I think Connie, you might have mentioned this as a traffic committee member, to ask Robert and Eddie to kind of put their heads together and consider whether they have a recommendation, what their opinion is, or if there needs to be any additional study done. I know that the idea of making Cooper Alley one way came up years ago. Actually, I think it was in the early days of being with the city, I remember, and one of the business owners, I think, kind of objected, and the council was fine letting it go. So this conversation has come up before, but if, I don't know if the council just wants staff to look into it more and make a recommendation, or if the council needs more information.
Eddie, do you think it's something that we can just discuss at our next traffic meeting?
We could. The big thing as I see it is on court days, when they have a lot of traffic in and out of there. That's when it might be an issue of where the one-way needed to be posted, especially for people from out of town and stuff, and maybe aren't familiar with Georgetown as much.
Well, the other thing too, you could always cut down between the old Southern States building and the taxidermy building. Not gonna be able to do that anymore. It's gonna be laid out different, so.
And it would be two-way the rest of the way. It's
Yeah, it
just
would be
that-
two-way, but
That first 300 or 400 feet between the buildings.
So,
the problem you got right now is if somebody comes off Broadway and then you got somebody coming the other way, somebody's gotta back up.
Are there guidelines on the width of a one-way street versus a two-way street?
Yeah, generally, at least 20 feet
And
is
what
the
is
width
this
that you'd
Cooper
want for
Alley?
two-way, as a minimum.
Have you looked at Cooper Alley in compare those guidelines to the width of Cooper Alley.
Yeah, in between the buildings, it's less than that. I need to go back out there and remeasure. I don't recall exactly off the top of my head. We can do that, and get you that information. Yeah. You can't drive past each other. If the two cars came at the same time, you wouldn't be able to safely.
If we did
Maybe
it
if they were the
one
smart
way.
cars or something.
So if it ends up being one way going in off of Broadway and you're going out, you're gonna come out on West Main or down on Water Street.
Right,
But you can
right.
also come in off of West Main and Water Street to go out that way, but not come back out Cooper Alley, out on North Broadway.
Yeah, we'd need to look at the whole site plan
Okay.
and
Just
get
Let's
that
just do
information.
that.
A little deeper.
Yeah,
So
And make sure we're comfortable with everything, you know.
so
Okay.
this will be something that you will probably need to, for the council, and go back and do some more study and get more information and bring it back to the council so we will know exactly what we are dealing with and how we need to proceed from here.
Yes.
Everybody pretty much agree with that?
Yes, sir.
We just want to bring it up for discussion.
Yep.
Keep it on the radar.
And we'll let it come to your traffic committee, and then traffic
Yeah.
committee can bring it.
We'll put it on the agenda we meet next week, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thanks.
Okay, next is the resolution approving an amendment to the CMAQ grant agreement.
Yeah, this is the Cardinal Drive project. We just recently, in the last few days, last week, received final authorization from KYTC, who's the funding agency. It's an 80-20 grant, and this is accepting that grant for the revised amount that we have based on, this is the third time we have bid this project, as you all recall, and the bids came in higher. We had to go back to get the additional funding from the state to make up for the additional costs for the road work. So it's to widen Cardinal Drive, resurface, and all the paving in front of the high school.
Motion, Mayor.
Sorry.
Motion's made, properly second.
And one other thing, could I add, they're gonna start construction, this gets through, when school's out this year?
That's the plan, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We're trying very hard to work with the school system to meet their requests to get the bulk of the construction done during the summer months when they're out of school.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other discussion?
Just one note, and I know you all have the resolution in the packet, with that additional federal funding, Eddie did a great job working with the cabinet to kind of reduce the scope of the project. The state's working on,
Yes.
Cynthiana Road, 32, they're working on a study there, so we removed that from the scope of our project. Still required more federal funds, which, as you all know, requires additional matching funds. So you will note that in your resolution, I don't have the exact number, but there are additional matching funds associated with the project.
Yes. The 32, yeah, that's right. The Highway 32 work is not included in the project. It's just Cardinal Drive. And the state's looking at some improvements on 32. They're going through a study to evaluate several intersections to see if they can do some improvements at those intersections which is the final piece of the project.
Is that,
Under the state's,
would that be a matching, or the state covers all?
the state would cover all of that, yeah.
So we don't have no liability on
The
that?
Cardinal Drive is, because that's a city street.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and it just came out onto 32, so we looked at improvements there and partnered with the state. Yeah.
All right. Any other further discussion? Yes.
While we're talking about Cardinal Drive, that Long Lick and Cardinal Drive are dark. It's dark.
Yeah, okay.
Are there any, I know we're still waiting for the streetlights that we approved over a year ago,
Yeah.
year and a half ago.
Yes.
Are there any updates on that? And then also, are there any plans to possibly put one or more streetlights there at that intersection?
We currently do not have any lighting proposed as this, but we could certainly look into that and see if we can get that added onto the project through a change order.
add some additional lighting at the intersections. I'll look into that. And then the lighting on state roads project, that was, we're still waiting on. There is a supply chain shortage of metal poles. I know, it's frustrating. And so we're looking, the last update that we received from Kentucky Utilities, who's our vendor who installs them for us, it was a 25 to 28 week. So we're looking at the fall of this year. Yeah, I know.
Okay. Any other further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. And next one is
Yes, sir.
the resolution accepting municipal road aid funds.
So this resolution is necessary for us accepting from the state street paving, that's resurfacing projects. Through the gasoline tax, we get funds every year that we use to pave streets. And this is formally accepting that money from the state.
Motion, Mayor.
Have a motion made.
Second.
Second? You second.
I did.
Thank you. Mr. Allen did. Motion is made, properly second. Are there further discussion or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Fire Department municipal order approving roof repairs for Fire Station Number 3 maintenance building.
Hello. The maintenance building roof at Fire Station 3 sustained damage in the March 3rd storms. Due to the amount, we're bringing that to council for approval, but it is on state contract. And we will be reimbursed all but the $2,500 deductible. But just due to the amount of the expense, we need to have it approved.
Make a motion, Mayor.
Okay, motion is made by Mr. Hampton, second by Ms. Hambrick. Are there questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. All right, from the police department,
You want me to handle it, or you want to come up?
municipal order approving police vehicle surplus.
So we are looking at surplusing 6 of our undercover vehicles. Some of them are running, some of them are not. We are also looking at surplusing 4 of our oldest unmarked vehicles. You all won't be voting on anything this week, but hopefully in 2 weeks we'll have a proposal for you all. What we're looking at doing is taking the proceeds from those 10 vehicles and either applying them to a short-term lease or, considering some other options.
Yeah, we're just weighing the options on whether it's more efficient to buy the undercover vehicles on an annual basis or do like a 1-year lease. So we're evaluating that, but we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Yeah, 3 of them will be for our investigators to use, and the other 3 will be for our academy guys to use. We don't put our officers in marked vehicles until they've graduated the academy, so.
Motion, Mayor.
This is just discussion, or does this take a motion?
It's for surplus?
Take a motion.
Takes a motion.
Yes.
Second.
And motion is made, properly second. Are there discussion?
I just, as a member of the police committee, asked, Officer Lodel to give kind of a breakdown, because I had no idea about what kind of cars and how many cars, and I just want to read just a little bit of what he sent me, because I think it's quite clarifying. We currently have an authorized strength of 70 sworn police officers and 6 civilian staff. Each sworn officer has a vehicle assigned to them that they're fully responsible for, and they can take it home to support their additional duties, like, being called out in the middle of the night and call-ins and going to court and back and forth. But some of these cars are patrol cars that are needed. Some are for investigation purposes. Some are for administrative purposes. Some are pool cars Could you explain that? That's if a car's broken down and they need to take another car because one's in the shop?
It is. So if we've got a car involved in a collision or just need some type of maintenance, we keep an inventory of pool cars, which is typically the older cars in our fleet, that we'll then temporarily assign to whichever personnel needs it until their frontline car gets back on the road.
And the last category was specialized vehicles. Is that what you were talking about as far as undercover, or was that more of the investigation category?
So I put those under more of the investigations category. I guess those would in some ways be a specialty vehicle. What I'm talking specifically is our crime scene truck. So if we have a major crime, we have an ambulance that has all of the equipment we need to be able to investigate that. Our special response team has 3 vehicles that they use for their various functions. So vehicles like that.
And so this, to my understanding, is outside of what we've already budgeted for. Is that correct, Stacy?
The 2 that are on here for item B, yes,
Yes.
are beyond what we've budgeted.
Okay.
One is due to the addition of the gun crimes detective, and the other one, I know they're looking at something different for the community relations officer.
Yep.
And that's a truck,
We
right?
still have, as approved by council last fall, we approved buying 6 cars with cash. 3 of those have already been purchased and have already arrived.
Yep.
And then we have 3 more that we had agreed to pay for with cash. And then 15 that are arriving after July 1 that were going to be leased. Those were all approved by council last fall. And then these would be in addition to those.
And Todd and I, as part of the committee, we're talking about the fact that our fleet is staying in good condition. And it's good to keep it in good condition because it wasn't at one time. I can't remember the year that they gave, but it was in horrible condition.
Todd remembers
Would you
well.
like to speak to that?
Which one?
The
Do
one
you
that
want the
Wendy-
stop signs, the yield signs, or the speed limit signs? Because I saw cars with all 3 in it, so.
Wow.
JB Weld was used to put pieces together that we didn't have insurance money to fix.
And holes in the bottom of the cars, right?
They were literally authorized to put stop signs and yield signs, whatever, to fix the floorboards in the vehicles.
And our enterprise fleet management system has been great.
Yeah.
Our program has been great for that, to keep our vehicles.
And I think when I talked to Chief Allgood, he said he actually was called out in an emergency, had a breakdown. I think you were as well, or somebody else. And they actually had to put the person who was handcuffed in the back seat in the front seat with him because there was an issue. I mean, it's essential to do what we're doing, and I'm proud to say that we're trying to keep our fleet in good shape so we can keep the city as safe as possible and our officers safe. So.
Yep. So one of these 2 vehicles, so we're asking to add one, and then we're actually going to be replacing the one maintenance outlier. So one of the benefits of Enterprise is they kind of show the costs per vehicle. And so when we buy this truck, if it's approved, we're going to assign that to community relations so that he can pick up supplies and haul trailers and have a vehicle capable of doing that. And then in turn, we're going to be getting rid of our, basically a money pit of a vehicle, one of our older Chargers. So.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we have a motion made and properly second, and we've had discussion. All those in favor of the motion that was A, with municipal order approving police vehicle surplus, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise. Now, B was municipal order approving a lease for 2 police vehicles.
Motion.
Motion is made. Second. Are there further discussion? Motion's been made, properly second, and no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, we're now down to council comments, and I'm gonna start with Ms. Tackett.
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I think we've been looking at City Hall for quite some time, and I'm glad to say that we're moving forward with that. I will say too that with the fire department, or the fire station 4, I'm still looking to bring that back to the table at some point, and just, I know that there's a need out there, so I think we gotta keep that on the front burner.
All right. Councilman Hampton?
Just a reminder, our budget workshop, Thursday. Look forward to seeing everyone there. And just to echo what Councilman Allen said with the fire department, I know the need is there, and we're gonna get that done. I know it's important, but you know, City Hall has been there, and we need a place that we can showcase and that's not a hazard to city employees. So, thank you.
Okay.
I echo the sentiments about City Hall. I also echo the sentiments about the Finance Committee and this council prioritizing needs. And again, City Hall has been on the docket for a long time. And it's needed. I have felt bad that the risk management people let us know how hazardous it's actually to the health of people who are in the building, and I'll be thankful to be able to get that situation rectified and to make this building something that can last for a long time, that the city can be proud of. And it can be, what's being built into it can grow with our city needs and our administrative needs, and I'm also very thankful for that because we're growing. As far as I can tell, we don't have enough room to put everybody that we currently have, let alone hires that we're still going to make. So I'm thankful for that moving forward. At the interlocal meeting that we were at, there are lots of things we do in conjunction with the county. And I'm very excited about this new pavilion that's gonna be built, that the farmer's market is gonna be in. It's gonna be set up right there where the farmer's market usually is. And the building looks fantastic, and, you know, the cost is the county's, but we're gonna get a lot of benefit out of it. So I know that citizens will be very glad to have that going on. And I just want to say something about our first responders, and to have it go on the record that our hearts go out to the police in Louisville today in light of the horrible tragedy that took place with the shooting. And one of the police officers was actually shot in the head and had to go to surgery, and I haven't heard of the outcome, but I know is in critical but stable condition after that. And they went right in with sledgehammers, the police did. Within 3 minutes they arrived, and they busted down that glass while the gunfire was still going on, and saved lives. So, you know, our first responders are absolutely essential to the safety of our city, and they do put their lives on the line, and I'm personally very thankful. And my heart goes out to all of that in our sister city. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. One thing I failed to mention, the Main Street clean sweep is gonna be April the 19th. Okay, Wednesday, April 19th, and everybody is invited to participate in that, so there you go.
12 p.m. It'll go about 12 to 2. We always meet in front of City Hall. There'll be trash bags, gloves, free T-shirt. Kind of send everybody on different routes. We do venture off of Main Street a little bit, but it's a really good event, good Earth Day, Earth Month event, and we'd love for council members to attend.
What day was that again? April?
Wednesday the 19th.
From 12 to 2, is that correct? All right. Okay, Councilman Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. Officer Wilt was the officer that was shot in Louisville. He survived the surgery. 2 weeks ago, he graduated from Louisville Metro's Police Academy. So it can happen to anyone. So, you know, my heart does go out to them, to the police department and the city of Louisville for that. One of the, and it kind of goes hand in hand with that, because everybody talks about the police officers and firefighters and everything that they do, but one that goes unnoticed is the dispatchers. They have to sit on the other end of the radio and listen to all that. This week is the National Telecommunicator Week. So, they need to be honored just as much as anybody else because, they have to sit there and listen to it, so. And then the last thing is, clarification, on House Bill 380 that was just, signed by the governor is 20-year-olds can be hired by the police department, as police officers. They can enter the police academy. The only thing is they have to be 21 before they graduate, which the way it's gone here lately, they have, most of them are 21 and probably turn 22 when they graduate. So, you know, they're doing a lot of great things with the police academy. So, just need to keep that up. That's all I got.
Mr. Brent?
I don't really have anything, but back to the vote for the City Hall renovations. I wasn't opposed to the renovations. I just haven't been a part of it as long as everybody else. And for me, it's a lot of money. And I just haven't been around long enough to see and to know everything about it. So I definitely want to keep the city employees safe. And I know that it needs to be done. But I do hope moving forward, we'll be able to get the fire station built. 2 more fire stations, I believe, or whatever, because I think that every neighborhood in this community needs to have the same protection. So I know you all know my heart is the fire station and protecting the citizens, and I just want to put that on the record. But I was not against the renovations of City Hall. I just think it's a lot of money, and I just haven't been around to see everything that this is going to take to do. So that's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Conway?
Well, I have been around a long time. You can take that however you want, but when I was on the council the first go-around, we were discussing serious problems. Ms. Tackett and I were there, and Mark, serious problems with City Hall. And it's very scary for people to be in City Hall and come to work every day, and the dangers that they face, and the situation with the mold and all this, it is a tremendous amount of money. But I think hopefully because a good portion of that was put in the budget, that it's just the safety, of the workers here and everybody is important, and we don't need to let it fall down. I mean, it's on its way and needs a lot of help. And I am for that. I agree it's a tremendous amount of money. I want to thank Robert Bruin and Eddie Hightower for reacting for me when I asked them to put some reflector strips on a couple of telephone poles leading into Montgomery Avenue, because I live up there in that neighborhood, and a lot of people approach me. Our street needs to be repaved. Could you give me some lights? And I was thinking that was a quick fix with the reflector strips, because it is dark up there. And I want to thank you all for doing that. And I got one more question, and my dad used to say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and he's right. But I can't remember the gentleman's name, but when we were in the public library, there were photographs taken by a gentleman where he had an issue for a long time with trees and problems and debris and everything. And I just wondered, does anybody have any updates on that? Have we responded to this gentleman yet about trying to get that? Is that over on Emerson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I just wondered if we'd acted on that, or if what we should do. I mean, I'm asking, is that a public works thing that can be?
I think that's code enforcement, but,
Code enforcement?
I mean, we would help abate it if they needed.
I reached out to him, and he said that somebody had.
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
It's a code enforcement issue, yeah. Assistant Chief Johnson, same way, Tammy Ford Vinegar, they're working on that right now.
Okay, good, because I just didn't want him to think we weren't responding.
Yes, ma'am, they went out there that following day.
That's good.
He did
Thank
say
you.
that, yes.
Thank you. Okay,
All right.
that's all, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Showalter.
I'm good, Mayor.
All right. If there is no further business, we then adjourn. Check it out.